Welcome back to Maula Cognition again. We are looking into an important point about Judgment Day or Doomsday, end of times, or the last hour. So, the last hour would come. This is in the all religious text, all the religion speaking about Judgment Day or end of times. It's a very important point here to discuss. That nowadays the world is heading for a big war or World War III. And according to Islamic sources, the world war will be fought in the Middle East as its epic center. And then it says that the saint saying that majority of the world population will cease to exist because of the war and aftermaths of the war. People in Europe, they are panicking, thinking that Europe will be extinct after a world war. But there is a hadith that says something different. According to this hadith in Sahih Muslim, Allah's Messenger is saying, the last hour would come when the Romans would form majority among us the people. Means it says that the Romans will be majority of the population. In the end of time, the last hour would come when the Romans would be majority among the people. So they say that he said, I say that what I heard from the Messenger of Allah. Thereupon he said, if you say that, it is a fact, for they have four qualities. They have the patience to undergo a trial and immediately restore themselves to sanity, after trouble and attack again after flight. They have the quality of being good to the destitute and the orphans, to the weak and filthy. The good quality in them is that they put resistance against the oppression of kings. So this is why Romans are praised, the Byzantine, Roman, Western world. This is a very important point. Everyone knows the charitable and generosity of Christian countries, from England all the way, France, Europe, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Italy, Germany, Poland, Spain, Portugal, all of these countries are charitable. Although there are some issues in Poland and Hungary these days against illegal migration. So countries like United Kingdom, according to this hadith, according to the statement in the Bible as well, for example in Proverbs and all about charitable act up to destitute and orphans, England would become a very strong and powerful nation. This is a very important point. And the European countries, they will be very strong and powerful because they are charitable. This is a mystical wisdom here. But at the moment, the human population in Europe is declining. And the population in Latin America, North America, Oceania and Asia is increasing. The growth rate in Africa is 200+%. In Oceania is over 100% is the population growth. So if population is growing in this step and the Europe population is declining, and the projection is a major decline in by 2050. So based on these statistics, if a person look into that, they would think the hadith is false. So if the hadith is true, then the big war will happen and the majority of casualties of the big war will be in Mid-Asia and Africa. Because Maulana Rumi, for example, is called Rumi, he is called man of Rome. but his parents come from Persia. Persia is not part of Roman Empire, but through England, through Spain and France, all America and Latin America, they are to be considered as the Roman Empire or Roman land, the people of Rome. Because Rome has expanded outside of the sea, if you can look. At the same time, you can also think because England, France colonized African countries, India and all, you would see they are also Roman, but they cannot be Roman. And the the South American or North American countries cannot be called Roman country, because they are not Rome in geographically and spiritually. Rome is actually where the land originally the Romans have ruled, or the Roman Empire has ruled in its original state. So for example, if the Romans invaded India, or let's say Australia, it cannot be called Rome, because that doesn't exist as part of the Roman Empire. It's an independent state. Otherwise you will have to call India, Sri Lanka, all these countries, Malaysia, as part of the Roman Empire, because the British ruled there, and Britain was part of the Roman Empire, and Britain had a Roman legacy. So it is very important to know that Roman Empire actually is the Roman Empire that existed in the time of Prophet, the companions, around that time in medieval age. That's the Roman Empire is speaking about here. And that Roman Empire is a span of between United Kingdom all the way to very east, all the way to Turkey, is supposed to be called Roman Empire. That's a very important point. So when the world war happens, this is called the hour will begin when the Byzantines are most prevalent people. Warum aktharun nas. So this means that if a big war happens, those countries that, or those regions that have the highest population, and those population will decline, including China, in South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the Middle East, of course, because the big war happens at the area of modern day Iraq, Syria, and Jerusalem, Palestine. This is the center. And of course, because of the global allegiance, partnerships and trade and military relations, there will be big catastrophe in both in Asia and Africa. That's a very important point. So this hadith says that Romans would be majority of people in the time of the big war. So this is showing a great resistance of Europeans against their enemies, which is right now is called Russians, people who are beyond this river Danube, or those river beyond the lands of Poland, which is Russian land, the very far eastern Europe. So this is a very important point. So this hadith shows that there will be less catastrophe in the European countries if the hadith is true. This is just a critical textual analysis of the hadith, not a spiritual analysis again. Although we put some spiritual insight to it. Grand Sheikh Maulana Sheikh Nazim and Sheikh Abdullah says England will become a powerful empire. So immigration is good for England. People will become much stronger. People will stand up for the country if they are respected and accepted into the society. So declining population is a big issue for European countries there. So a foreigner born in settled in European country, or the children born to a foreigner who settled in Rome, is called Roman. Just like Maulana Rumi is called Maulana Jalaluddin al-Rumi because he is in Rome. So this is how the place people known by birth of the land or by naturalization into a land can also be accepted as a citizen of the Rome or other nations. So this is showing us some good prospects about the last hour. So if Romans are going to be the largest population, the Rome would have less impact from a nuclear war or a Armageddon war. And most of the big impact will be in other parts of the world, Middle East, Africa and Asian countries especially. So we would see much more conflict in like Far Eastern countries as well if this hadith is going to be holding the truth. It's a very important point.